I don't know if you realized or not, but Gorillaz makes weird music, the good brand of it, because it's not really off-putting. You can generally show people their music without it coming off like that one scene from regular show.
Wait. Oh man, that's like the best part.
This month, they finally released The Mountain, a record that harps back to the band's roots after the, pardon my French pal, there he goes, after the absolute piece of shit that Cracker Island was. There, I said it, fight me if you want. Since the return in 2017, they really haven't done anything that wanted to say anything specific. They have themes and vibes, and I'm one of those special few who thinks the Now Now is pulling off the Andre 3000 and is the shit. But cohesive wasn't really the description in those. The Mountain is absolutely cohesive. It feels like an absolute return to form for the band in some way, even if it doesn't quite carry the spark of the first 3 records. It's a wonderful time, and I'm really enjoying doing this part of the year using its songs for a soundtrack. The manifesto is still fantastic, the Electric Dream Machine is emotional, if a bit expected. Frankly, it gets worse with every listen, but I still dig it. And Orange County is one of the best produced Gorillaz songs since their return. It's kinda like Desolé in that sense. We got a music video for The Moon Cave, a wonderfully abstract short that feels as polished as the Plastic Beach music videos, and it's great. Until you start to wonder whether the Gorillaz are dead or if this is just some symbolic crap that didn't actually happen. Low-key, kind of interested in seeing them not return. Not because I don't like the current guys, just because I'm genuinely intrigued as to how that would look. How this one ranks against other albums for me is still uncertain. The competition is insane, ridiculously, but it's difficult to argue this isn't some of the best work in a long time. I imagine some of you are wondering where the tracks fit in my ranking from this old video, but I'll refrain from passing judgment right now. Currently, I'm too attached to most of the old tracks. I feel like I can't be all that fair about it. Songs I don't like now I may like later, and songs I like may not stand out in future hearings. Once I know, I'll be sure to update the playlist, so don't you worry. There's one song from this album though that just immediately ticked me off. On the first hearing, I just kinda headbanged to it. I fucking love the song, noting down how it felt like the song had some sort of, I don't know, spark that Gorillaz rarely shows in its modern phases. This was an unusual comment to jot down. Every other comment was about the production or about whether I liked the songs, which elements stood out and whatnot. Little did I know that writing nothing about those elements was going to be what stood out to me the most when I checked my notes. So, I gave it a re-listen to see what's up. Delirium is a weird fucking song. I dare say it's one of the weirdest songs by Gorillaz yet. If I had a nickel for every time I heard a song called Delirium, I'd have 3 nickels, which is not the Doofenshmirtz squad, so I'm moderately disappointed about that. Yep, I refuse to believe I haven't done a similar joke before, but I straight up cannot remember, so here you got it again. It's not that the song is doing anything crazy. I'd say its boldest move is bringing back Marky Smith as a posthumous feature. His old recording sessions may go back as far as 2009, maybe 10. Everything else that piques my interest is just a bucket of little oddities that slowly mount up my confusion. From whatever it means to the way it just teleports into you, ending your The Lost run immediately. Musically, it seems nothing special, a slow build up into a hard synth explosion that has these awesome disco touches like you're hitting that flip combo in Tony Hawk, and then it's repeated twice. It's a funky and fun song, it's effective. Sure, there's other parts of the mix that are unique. Mark's vocals are kinda swirling around the mix in a way that invokes his voice as a low presence ethereal sound, and a lot of the percussion has an aggressive sidechain that is designed to get you bouncing. You can absolutely hear James Ford's production, which you'd recognize him from producing the Now Now, which, I mean, his production is as good here as it was there. But what really stood out to me was the instrumentation. Lots of The Mountain has work from individuals called the Mountain Choir, yet this song doesn't feature them in any capacity. And you have to keep in mind, this is a song that primarily features a choir element that is ultimately just composed from synthesizing 2D/Damon Albarn's vocals. Yes, it's also the same effect used for the choir at the end of the long version of Do Ya Thing. Along with that, every other track in this record, even the bonus ones, which I've definitely heard and did not get duped twice into leading to horrible AI slob passing for the real thing as I projectile vomited with my ears thinking it was impossible for Damon Albarn to put out such pieces of garbage. Every other track in the record has at least one other collaborator that hasn't died at release. This is the exception, where the song seems to only credit the producers and collaborators that appeared throughout the entire record. It's surprisingly lonely, which is bizarre, you know, because the song sounds like this. This song then has the most subtle polyrhythm ever in the vocals, which go at 2/2 to the instrumentation standard 4/4. You literally only notice it if you're looking for it, unless you're like a music person or something, in which case I think it's kind of evident, but it does make it feel a lot more chaotic. Hey, remember that this album is like about India? Half of the instruments are India? Where? Where is anything about India here? I watch Devdas. I would know everything about India. Maybe the percussion is using some sort of Indian drum whose name I don't know, but otherwise, this song is devoid of any of those world beat elements. And then, randomly before the second drop, you have a voice in Russian saying, "Hello, I'm Vlad and I'm the Tooth Fairy." Who the fuck is Vlad? Is Vlad in the room with us right now? Even the name of this bad boy is an excluded anomaly. Every song is titled after a place or the something. Delirium is not the nor anywhere, it's a state of mind if anything. You'd think that because the feature comes from some Plastic Beach outtakes that it would be using elements from the seasides, the way Damascus does it. But the song shares more in common with a Now Now demo musically. So like, what is happening with this track? Gorillaz has a lot of weird sounding songs and yet they rarely are as anomalous as this one. Making music be confusing without getting weird with it is just kind of an achievement in its own way. I feel music is all about structure and expression, so oftentimes when music wants to sound weird, they kind of end up lying into its abstractness. Here's a tidbit of strong one just to make music theorists angry. The basis of my confusion here comes from how lonely and deliberate this track is. Something that sounds normal and spontaneous seems to be one of the deeper songs in the album about death, when the tone isn't implying a particular emotion, if at all. This song evokes feelings of chaos because it whoops constantly, but underlying all of that is the biggest mystery that I cannot answer for sure. This deliberate piece has the most random and abstract lyrics in the record, period. Even songs like Sleeping Powder, which also have that sort of afterthought vibe, are pretty straightforward with their lyrics. Let's talk Mark's lines. He recorded all of his stuff here for the Plastic Beach track Glitter Freeze, the one that sounds like a visit to the dentist office. This explains why all his lyrics are related to pirate crap. A line about a figurehead, a line about a peg leg, but what's delirium got to do with anything? It's a medical term for someone who is experiencing hallucinations and confusion. Even listening to the lines from Glitter Freeze, which in universe is a ghost ship that tried invading Plastic Beach, you don't really get any of that extra info about why he said delirium, even in the superior alternate version that they decided not to use for some reason. At the same time, the lyrics in Glitter Freeze itself make no sense. Dr. F is out here shaking hands with Vlad on who the fuck is this person, Bill. That's just the way Mark does his lyrics. They're just oftentimes really abstract and confusing, and they're just there to fill in gaps maybe. Now, 2D stuff is easy to interpret. He's talking about new gods on the mountain driving into chaos, a new god who cannot be fought, only escape, somehow. At first I imagined it could easily be a political statement. Not only has Gorillaz done political comments in the past as well as in this very album through the Hyper Dictator, but the current worldwide political landscape is a mess. Thing is, this album was finished halfway through 2025. Things were not really as messy as they are now. Not to mention, the brunt of the current situation is closer to the US than it is to Britain, where Damon is based. So I kinda think a political statement may be out the window. It's still possible, but not quite 100%. The lyrics include the line, "I've been waiting in the chat rooms for the end to begin," easily interpreted as if the song discusses radicalization through the internet. It would fit the lyrics, but first, lines like "he doesn't recognize himself or what he's done" don't lend themselves well to this interpretation. Maybe it's alluding to this new god being some form of influencer, maybe one that radicalized people into a doom and gloom mindset, aka not me cause I'm all about hope and rainbows, but continuing where I started. Second, his album's not about that, that was the last album. This album's about death. Nothing to say that the song that sticks out for not fitting in actually just doesn't fit in and has a different topic unlike every other song, but come on, Slime, be a tiny bit more fun. Ultimately, it is music, so you can interpret it however you want, and I imagine there's an element of abstractness that understandably is upkept by the artists. I myself sometimes like not making my point too clear because audience interpretation is part of what makes creating anything cool, at least to me. I have been known to get a little wacky, so I might be an exception. I don't like that other interpretation. Nope, no sorry, no likey. Lyrically, it adds up pretty alright, but the feature has got to be here for a reason, and I don't think getting your opinions about stuff like politics or a movie from an online personality elicits rhythmically posing while eating rancid leftover rice soup in the kitchen at 3 AM. It's fine because it's rancid, not rotten. This song depicts a character talking to another about a new god. We have to figure out who these three people are, or more explicitly, what they mean, because once I figured this out, I just listened to the song in silence and everything seemed to make sense. I was in shock, but I also understood then and there why this song was so strange and unique amongst the record. Abstract. That's because its message seems to be better understood through emotions. The listener seems to be the audience, pretty cookie cutter. The speaker is telling you to run away from this new god. The line, "if you're sitting in the darkness with your loaded gun," followed by a reminder that the new god cannot be fought even if you're prepared. It kinda makes it clear that one cannot really be ready for whatever is coming. You gotta run. So what's something so terrifying that suddenly arrives, disturbs the flow of the mountain, which the album is used as a metaphor for life, and is big enough to not recognize what it entirely is itself? The fear of imminent death. This new god is the fear of imminent death. This album came about because both Jamie and Damon lost their parents around the time they started thinking about making this record. Its shape and topic is dictated by this new reality that affronted them, the idea that death is imminent, not just for them, but for those they love. I imagine that immediately starting to make choices around that fear of those inevitabilities becomes kind of part of the status quo for people who have recently suffered a loss, because doing the funny haha Persona 3 and remembering that you will die is exceptionally terrifying. The kind of fear that would keep you in the darkness trying to be ready to avoid it at all costs. And that brings us to the speaker, a voice that repeats at you that you must open the door, let the speaker in. The chat room's line uses the word waiting, and that doesn't really line up with the idea of a speaker that is actively not waiting. They're trying to guide you. Waiting for the end to begin seems to be an action they'll do inevitably, regardless of being in any chat rooms. Beyond that, you open the door for this individual and an explosion dance party begins. This is a person who describes themselves as broken and cowardly in the lyrics, so this being their reaction to them entering a confusion at Delirium is borderline ridiculous. Who is this guy? His worst sin is that he literally tells us directly. The Vlad moniker may have begun as a throwaway line, but its meaning is beautiful. Acceptance. The speaker, in this case Vlad, is acceptance, but not of death. That make no sense, that'd be stupid. Nobody wants to die unless depression happens. Acceptance is literally imploring you not to embrace death, to run from it. And here you thought your crush was the one sending mixed messages. Meanwhile, this guy is whimsically coming for your teeth, which, in case you didn't know, did you know that your teeth count as organs? This is a walking contradiction. Delirium. One which tells you not to embrace the fear of death, but to simply accept it. The fear of death, not death itself. The speaker sounds ethereal yet human. He does what you do, and yet his request for you is to accept that death is terrifying. Not just in a level where you don't want it, but a deeper one. To know it's coming and that it's going to suck and it's going to hurt. Acceptance wants you to open the door, let that emotion overwhelm you in its delirious chaos. The chorus using a posthumous feature among a party explosion to represent an attitude towards the idea of an afterlife that Western media might have ridiculed, one that understands the complexity of death beyond religious expectations. The voice wants you to cry, to fear, to feel, and all the while, it wants you to celebrate. In Hindi culture, the full moon is called Purnima, when calendar months end. This is a day typically used for celebrations in a variety of Hindi cultures. I bring this up because the song includes the lines, "There's fires on the mountain and the full moons come." This implies that despite the mountain being in disarray, a celebration is about to begin. The celebration that comes with death regarding the start of a new journey for the ones leaving. That is what the mountain is. The singular music video ends on the gorillas dipping inside a river and seemingly reincarnating. And that's how this song truly comes together. The reason it's so weird is because this song is literally the very heart of the album's concept, its core, and one so unusual that words alone couldn't communicate it. Music is necessary for this message. One about accepting the negative feelings that come from fearing death and pushing positively through those emotions through celebration. It's a mentality that Damon probably adapted after his experience with death and his trip to India. It's a song about accepting the bad that comes with the fear of death while looking at it with peace of mind, the strength to understand that those emotions are normal and can be set aside to celebrate the journey that people had. The delirium that comes for us all, sooner or later. Just like the Russians are gonna come to this song's comment section because of one line. One line easily took you guys.